At some point, you are going to deal with difficult people. And if you're not careful, you can create explosive situations or break relationships that should be healthy. And it's my desire for you to have healthy relationships as well as handle conflict and confrontation well in every area of your life. So today we are going to be talking about 4 keys to handle difficult people. Welcome to the Dream Lifestyle Podcast. I'm grateful to have you here today as we talk about how to handle difficult people. And I'm going to be sharing with you 4 keys that will help us effectively work with people who we can describe as difficult. Now, why is this important? Why do we as dreamers need to know how to work with difficult people? The reason being, what we know is that anything that we are looking to accomplish, anything that we are looking to do is going to require the help of other people. And more times than not, we are going to be encountering people who we can describe as difficult. For whatever the reason, there always seems to be some sort of issue. There always seems to be some sort of point of contention between myself and this other person. And thus, we describe them as difficult. And so we want to make sure that as we are on the road to our goals, as we are on our personal growth journeys, that we know how to effectively handle confrontation, that we know how to communicate effectively, regardless of who the recipient is, whether it's someone that really enjoys working with us, or if it's someone that doesn't, if it's someone that is really easy to work with, or it's someone that is hard to work with. We want to make sure that we are equipping ourselves with the ability and the tools and the strategies necessary in order to effectively work with everyone, including difficult people. So the first key to handle difficult people is to keep your composure. And there's 3 thoughts within keeping your composure that I want you to think about. The first one is to be respectful. Always be respectful. The second one is don't respond emotionally. And the third, stay calm. Now, let's talk about the being respectful piece. And this might seem very obvious, and this might even seem, easy. But be clear. Just because someone is difficult to work with, that does not give you a right to be disrespectful. At the end of the day, you are in control of your responses. And even when someone is being difficult, even when someone may be disrespecting you, that does not give you a right, nor does it license you to then return evil with evil, to return disrespect with disrespect. At the end of the day, you are only responsible and accountable for what you do. And so even when someone may be difficult, you want to make sure that you are responding with respect. Now, that doesn't mean you can't bring up your own point. That doesn't mean you can't stand your ground. That doesn't mean you can't stand up for yourself. However, every single person that we work with, every single person that we come into contact with, difficult or not, deserves our respect. The second piece of that, where I say don't respond emotionally, means make sure that you're responding from a place of logic. Make sure that your response is not just rooted in frustration. It's not rooted in sadness. Make sure that whatever it is that you say, whatever words that you put together, the tone of your voice, make sure that you are responding with your mind and not your feelings. Because if you respond emotionally, that is where you can open up the door for you to say something that you probably are going to regret. If you respond emotionally, that is where you're able to open up the door for really to just not get your point across, because you're responding emotionally and not actually bringing your side to the conversation because you responded emotionally. So make sure that when you respond with logic. And then the third piece is stay calm. Stay calm. It should not be obvious that you are flustered or frustrated when you are talking to someone that can be characterized as difficult. I know that it is frustrating, but you have to master your emotions so you can get to a point where you can just stay calm. At the end of the day, if this person is difficult, so be it. But I have to stay calm because me as the leader in my own life, in order for me to be effective, I have to stay calm. It makes it very difficult for me to be productive. It's very difficult for me to move this thing forward if I am always flustered whenever I have to work with my boss. It's very difficult for me to take steps towards the life that I want if I'm always flustered when I need to talk to my wife or I need to talk to a brother, a friend, whoever it is. Always stay calm. And when you do these three things of being respectful, responding with logic and not responding emotionally, and you stay calm, that is what will allow you to keep your composure in the interaction with the person that is quote unquote difficult. And when we are able to master this component of, keeping your composure, you will find yourself able to have much more effective and efficient conversations with the person. And again, the beautiful part about this is all of this, we're basically taking the control into our own hands by mastering our response. And so I will master my response by keeping my composure. I will not allow that person being difficult. I will not allow them to basically suck me into their world of frustration, being difficult and everything like that. I won't allow it. So I'm going to master being respectful at all times, regardless of what they do or say to me. I'm going to master responding with logic. I'm not going to respond emotionally, and I'm always going to stay calm. So that way I'm always in control. So that way I can always make the right decision and say the right thing. So that way the right action is being taken as I'm working with other people to make my goal happen. Now, the second key to handle difficult people is try to understand their perspective. So many of us make the mistake of categorizing people as difficult simply because they don't agree with us. And if we are living life thinking and expecting other people to agree with everything that we say, we are living in delusion. So when we are working with other people, understand, number one, that just because they're disagreeing with you does not mean that they're difficult. But even when someone is truly being difficult and I am trying to make something happen for the collective and not just for myself, that I actually am intentional with taking the time to see it how they see it. What is their perspective on the situation? Based on what I know about this person, what is their perspective? And there's three questions that we can ask in order to just get a good sense or a gauge of just the other person's perspective. Because while we may be describing them as difficult, the fact is they may just see the situation differently than we do. And so the first question is, could something be going on that I don't know about? Is there a factor of this situation that I don't know about that is causing the other person to quote unquote seem difficult? Is there information that I am missing that is causing me to make a decision, but if I had that information, I would make a totally different decision? These are the things that we have to think about when we ask the question of, could something be going on that I don't know about? It means, could the difficult person that I'm communicating with, could they be going through a family issue right now that is just bleeding into this work conversation? Is there just something else going on? And again, this is where keeping our composure comes into play, because when we keep our composure, we actually can take the time intentionally to ask ourselves these questions, and we can more effectively handle the person that is quote unquote being difficult if there is information that is necessary. So we can ask better questions in the conversation, in the confrontation, without there being explosiveness or disrespect or anything like that. So when I ask the question of, is there something going on that I don't know about? I now empower myself to properly handle and communicate with the person that's being difficult. Now, the second question that we have to ask when we want to understand their perspective, the other person's perspective, is, did I approach them the wrong way? And meaning, did the vehicle in which I speak to them, did the vehicle that I speak to them, is that just not the right way to approach it? Did I come barging into their office when I should have sent an email? Or did I send an email when I really should have, given them a phone call? These are the things that we need to take responsibility over, just to figure out what is their perspective. If I know that they are super busy, maybe it's not the right thing for me to come barging into their office and making demands and everything like that. Did I approach this confrontation? Did I approach this conversation the right way? Did I approach it in a way that was productive, or did I approach it in a way of, you're just being difficult and you're going to hear me right now? These are the things that we have to think about. That's a question that we have to ask ourselves when we want to understand their perspective. Because again, the topic itself might be a very easy topic. The topic itself might be a very easy conversation to have. However, and I'm certain that you've experienced this, if someone approaches the conversation in the wrong way, they don't frame the conversation right, they spring on you this big topic and it's a surprise to you, that might be the reason why they are responding as though they are difficult, simply because you did not approach them the right way. And that's something that when we ask that question, we empower ourselves to make sure that whenever I do, initiate confrontation, that I'm approaching them the right way, so that way there is a productive outcome. Now, when I ask myself this question of did I approach them the right way, the third question that I need to ask myself is, did I approach them at the wrong time? Because timing is everything. You can have the right conversation at the wrong time and end up with a horrible outcome. It's only when we have the right conversation had at the right time that we actually get fruitful results. If I want to have a hard conversation and I want to have this conversation at 6 a.m, depending on the person, that more than likely is not going to get me a good result. That more than likely could cause me to think of them as being difficult, when the truth is, it's just too early to have that type of conversation. Or on the flip side, if there's a really hard conversation that needs to be had about a decision that needs to happen very soon, and I delay and I wait a month to have this conversation that should have happened a week, I'm having the right conversation at the wrong time. And if I have information, I might be the one with information that I need to bring to the decision maker. I may be the one that has information that is very important to the decision at hand. But if I wait too long to bring it to the table to the other person, then they are, they have an attitude with me, or whatever the case is. I've had the right conversation at the wrong time. So when we want to figure out, okay, understanding the other person's perspective, I need to just be honest and take extreme ownership of the way in which I entered the conversation and saying, okay, did I have this conversation? This is the right conversation, but am I having it at the wrong time? Am I having it at a time of day when they actually, whoever it is that I'm communicating with, when they actually are open to hear about this? Am I having this conversation too early for that person? These are just the questions we have to just be honest with and ask ourselves. And when we ask these three questions of, could something be going on that I don't know about? Did I approach this conversation the wrong way? Or did I approach this conversation at the wrong time? When we ask ourselves these three questions, we'll be able to give ourselves, again, just a good sense of the other person's perspective on this conversation. Because again, you could be having the right conversation and the other person could also identify the conversation as the right conversation. But if there's things and information that you don't know, and if you approach the conversation in the wrong way, whether it be the wrong method or at the wrong time, it could lead to conflict. And so we take extreme ownership just by intentionally trying to understand the other person's perspective. And then the third key to handle difficult people is to communicate your perspective. And in order to communicate your perspective, you need to be confident, be clear, and be kind. Be confident, clear, and kind. Now, with confidence, understand, confrontation is a learned skill. I know that when I first got started in business, I identified that, man, I don't really do well with confrontation. And that was an area that I wanted to work with. And I needed to improve my self-confidence so that way I could properly handle confrontation. And so by being confident, I am now empowering myself to be able to communicate my perspective. And again, confrontation is not a negative thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with confrontation. Confrontation only becomes negative when respect is lost. Confrontation only becomes negative when the wrong thing is said that you can't take back. So when we are trying to improve our confrontational skills, we need to, number 3, communicate our perspective. And the way in which we communicate our perspective is, number one, being confident. We have to be confident in whatever it is that we are communicating. I need to be confident in the way that I see things. I see things the way that I see it. And so that means I have a perspective that is valuable. And so when I am confident in whatever it is I think, and I'm confident in whatever it is that I do, that will allow me to, once the person is quote unquote being difficult, they respond with the no, they respond with an attitude, they respond however they respond. I am confident enough in myself to communicate my perspective. Now, the second thing, and this is a big one, is just being clear. I'm not filibustering all over the place where, my perspective is like this abstract type of idea. I want my perspective to be very clear. I want my perspective to be so clear that a third grader could understand. I want my perspective, and I want to communicate in such a way that it does not matter whether you agree or disagree with my perspective, you at least understand what I am saying. And this is where we're talking about just basic communication skills, but you don't want to, especially in confrontation and dealing with difficult people, and you need to communicate your side of things. You don't want to communicate anything abstract. It doesn't, but let your yeses be yeses and your nos be nos. So make sure that if there's something that you don't agree with, make it very clear in your communication. I don't agree with this. If there's something that you want to see happen, make sure you communicate it like, I would like to see this happen. And you just speak very clearly and confidently. So that way, the recipient of whoever it is that you're speaking to, which if it is the difficult person or just anyone, because these things apply to any situation, any area of life, you want to make sure that you are communicating clearly, and you want to communicate so well that even a third grader can understand whatever it is that you are thinking, that a third grader can understand your perspective. And then the last one is just being kind. Be kind. Just because someone responds to you with an attitude, or they respond and they're being difficult for whatever the reason, because again, we are in control of our response. However they may be, whyever they are difficult, we want to be kind. It does not take that much energy to be kind to people. I know that people can be nasty. I know that people can be rude. I know that people can even be disrespectful, but it does not hurt you to just be kind. You can be kind in responding with your perspective. You can be kind and instead of petty. You can be kind instead of being rude. You do not have to, quote unquote, match their energy if they are being difficult, because again, there could be something going on that you don't know about. So when we respond, anytime we open our mouth, we are responsible for it. So when we are responding and communicating our perspective, yes, we want to be confident. We want to be very clear with, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. We also need to be very clear, but also we can just be kind about it. We don't need to be rude about it. We don't have to be mean about it. We don't have to, downplay what they think. At the end of the day, everybody wants acknowledgement and validation. And so that means that I can acknowledge and validate whatever somebody else thinks, even if it is difficult, even if it makes no sense to me. But I can acknowledge and validate it. And in my response, I can be kind. It does not cost you a thing to be kind to people, even if they quote unquote don't deserve it. I promise you, you will be the better for being kind to people as a result. And so that's what you get when you communicate your perspective, and you got to do it confidently, you've got to do it clearly, and you have to be kind about it. Now, the fourth and final key to handle difficult people is to be innovative. And this is important because even while that person may be difficult, even while that person may be getting on your nerves, you still have a job to do. And that has to be above how you feel about an individual. That has to be important. We have to keep the main thing, because if you spend so much time focusing on the difficult person, you are simply being distracted from your goal. So we want to make sure that we are being progressive. We want to make sure that we are being proactive in pursuing our goals and our dreams. And so in order to do that, when we encounter difficult people, we need to be innovative. How do I still get the job done? And the three questions that we need to ask ourselves in order to really, we'll say jumpstart that innovation, the innovative thinking, is number one, how can I handle them better? So if they're going to be difficult, they're pretty consistent in being difficult. What can I do to handle them better. And this is, again, just where we take extreme ownership over our actions. While we may not be able to understand their perspective, while we may not be able to understand why are they so difficult, why are they always getting on my nerves? Again, if we focus on that, it's a distraction. But if we start thinking about, again, how can I effectively handle them so that way the job still gets done? Now you're being productive with your thinking. Now you're being productive in the way in which you will interact with them. If you know that someone is just going to consistently be difficult, maybe there's a way in which you can interact with them less. Maybe there's a way, I don't know, but that's where you're able to be creative if you simply ask yourself, how can I handle them better? And the second thing is just how can the task still get accomplished? How can the task still get accomplished even while this person is being difficult? Because again, it's about the task getting done. Do not focus on the person being difficult because it is nothing but a distraction. This is where, again, how can I still get it done? Can the task still get done by my innovation? And you will find yourself at a new level of creativity even while you're in the midst of dealing with a difficult person. But you have to ask yourself, how can the task still get accomplished? Even while you may be always hitting a roadblock, even while they always seem to be saying no, they always seem to be giving you a hard time, how can I still get the task done? And the third question you have to ask yourself is just, how can I be flexible? Is there something that I need to do? Is there a new skill that I need to gain? Is there just something that I need to do that might be unorthodox, that might just be new? It might never have been done before, but what can I do in order to be innovative so that way the job can still get done? Because that's what it's all about. Okay. You do not need to be focusing on the negative or the difficult person. You need to be focusing on the job getting done, the mission being accomplished, because the mission being accomplished is going to impact a lot of people. The mission being accomplished is going to lead to you having a fulfilled life. The mission being accomplished is what matters, not the difficult person. And so you should never allow yourself to get emotional over people's consistent actions. And if someone is going to be consistently difficult, then you need to just figure out, how do I work around this? In what ways can I be creative to still get the job done? Now, I believe that these 4 keys will truly help you handle difficult people. And so I hope that our conversation today helped you in some way, shape, or form. So all I'm going to ask you to do is like this episode, leave a review, share, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. But even more importantly than that, I'm going to ask you to share this with someone. Share this with someone that you know may be dealing with someone that is difficult and needs these 4 keys that you just got, because it would really mean a lot to me, just because, again, I'm in this to help you grow. I'm in this so that way you can achieve every single goal that's on your heart. And I know that there are people around you who have the same. They have goals that they want to accomplish. They have dreams that they're looking to live and fulfill. And so this could be the very thing that they need to hear. So as I said before, you're awesome.